Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to tackle something that really affects a lot of us. Tariffs. Specifically, how they're shaking up the housing market and, the cost of things we put in our homes.
Right. It touches everything.
Yeah. So whether you own a home, maybe you're thinking about buying, or you're just curious about, well, what makes the economy tick, we've dug into some recent reports to try and make sense of it all for you.
Exactly. We've got info from ABC News and KPRC2 Click to Houston. ABC really zooms in on the home construction side of things, and KPRC gives us that wider view, the bigger trade picture.
So our mission here is basically to pull out the key stuff, clarify how these tariffs are actually hitting the housing market, affordability, without getting bogged down in jargon or, taking political sides on what the reports say.
Just the facts, laid out clearly.
Before we jump in, though, a quick word about a great resource. Flowers and Associates is helping bring you this deep dive.
Ah, yes.
If you've ever thought about starting your own special needs housing business for adults, which is incredibly rewarding work, Flowers and Associates offers, expert consulting really guides you through it all.
They really know their stuff in that area.
Definitely. You can reach them at 901-445-8148 or just visit flowersandassociatesbooking.com. And, some listeners might remember Robert Flowers from our previous dives.
Oh, yeah, the author.
Exactly. Noted author, titles like The Joy of Helping Others, Creating Passive Income Through Special Needs Housing. His insights have definitely come up before.
A real expert in that field.
Okay, so let's get into it. Tariffs and home construction. What's the immediate vibe?
Well, the ABC News report points to something pretty clear. Builder confidence is down. Actually, it's at a 7-month low for new single-family homes.
7 months. Okay, that sounds significant. It's not just a feeling then.
No, it reflects real concerns. Costs are going up. There's this general uncertainty about what's next.
Right, and we heard from that builder, Alex Yost, in North Carolina.
Yeah, in Raleigh.
He's already having to rethink things, right, where he gets his materials from.
Exactly. He mentioned, even for light fixtures, before it might just be about the look, the quality. Now, he's got to think, okay, where was this made? Are there tariffs? It actually narrows his choices.
Wow. So global trade policy is literally affecting which light fixtures go into a house in Raleigh.
Pretty much. And the report said, about 7% of products in new construction are imported?
Yeah, 7%, which, okay, maybe doesn't sound like a huge number on its own.
But wait till you hear the cost impact. They estimate these tariffs could add another $9,200 to the price of a new home.
$9,000. Ouch. For a lot of people, that's a barrier. That could be the down payment difference, almost.
It's a substantial chunk, absolutely. And it's hitting basic materials. We're talking steel, aluminum, copper.
Fundamentals.
Yeah, and appliances, too. Stuff you absolutely need.
Now, hang on. Didn't the report say some things were, exempted lumber and gypsum?
Ah, good point, yes. Canadian lumber and Mexican gypsum were specifically exempted from retaliatory tariffs.
Retaliatory? So, tariffs put in place because another country did something first.
Exactly. So there was some strategic thinking there, it seems. And gypsum, just so folks know, that's in drywall, plaster, cement. Pretty key stuff.
Okay, so that's some relief, but still lots of other materials, the prices are going up.
Definitely. Which brings us to the buyers. How are they feeling about this?
Well, this was interesting in the ABC report. The first-time buyers they talked to, they weren't initially super worried about tariffs stopping them from buying the house itself.
Right. That surprised me a little, too. The focus seems to be on that sticker price.
But then they started thinking about, what makes a house a home. That's how they put it.
The insides, the appliances.
Yeah. Washers, fridges, dishwashers. Suddenly, the tariffs on those imported goods, that hit home because it bumps up the total cost of getting set up and messes with that monthly budget.
Exactly. It's the total cost of ownership, not just the purchase price. And that realtor, Leonard Wyndham, he mentioned seeing buyers pushed further out.
Further from the city centers, yeah. Because those monthly costs are just creeping up.
Which changes commutes, changes communities. It all connects.
It really does. And beyond just the cost now, there's this other layer of worry, right? About the future.
Yeah, the uncertainty. The ABC report brought up this speculation, what if buyers pull back? If they get nervous about the economy because of all this tariff talk?
Demand drops.
And if demand drops, maybe builders slow down construction.
Which makes the housing shortage even worse than it already is in many places.
Exactly. It's like a potential double hit, higher costs and fewer houses being built.
Man. And what about the builders themselves? Alex Yost mentioned supply chain worries too, didn't he?
He did really practical stuff, like if he can't get cabinets on time because they're held up somewhere due to tariffs.
The whole project gets delayed.
Right. And every month of delay means extra cost, often for the client who might be paying for temporary housing. It's not just numbers, it affects people's lives directly.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the construction side feeling the pinch. Increased costs, supply chain jitters, uncertainty.
Pretty much sums it up. Now, let's maybe zoom out. The KPRC2 report gives us that wider economic context.
Okay, shifting gears. So President Trump announced a pause on some tariffs, but, and this is important, not on China, right?
Correct. That's a key distinction. The pause didn't cover China. In fact, the report said tariffs on some Chinese goods actually went up.
Right, got it. And they had that analyst, Mark Hamrick from Bankrate.
Yes, his insights were interesting. He suggested the reason for pulling back on some of the other planned tariffs might have been worries about a potential burgeoning financial crisis.
A crisis? Wow, what indicated that?
He pointed to the bond market. You know, when certain bond yields spike, like the 10-year Treasury, it can signal investors are getting nervous, maybe foresee economic trouble ahead. That likely got policymakers' attention.
Okay, so even with that partial step back, the tariff situation isn't exactly resolved.
Not at all. KPRC emphasized that significant tariffs are still very much in place. Those higher China tariffs, potential auto tariffs, auto parts tariffs, even maybe pharmaceuticals down the line.
And they mentioned a number, $300 billion worth of import taxes still potentially kicking in.
Yeah, it gives you a sense of the scale. It's huge. We're still looking at baseline, a 10% tax increase via tariffs on a lot of goods, plus that 25% on certain Chinese items.
Which ultimately could mean higher prices for us, the consumers.
That's the potential outcome, yes, across a whole range of products.
The report used Apple as an example, didn't it? Because they rely so much on China.
They did.
Okay.
Showed how their stock took a hit from the trade tensions. It illustrates how these big policies ripple through major companies, the stock market, investor confidence.
So the main takeaway there is even pulling back slightly didn't erase the risks.
Pretty much. Risks to the financial outlook, economic growth, inflation. They're still there, maybe just held off for a bit rather than solved.
And politically, KPRC mentioned the uncertainty around the why, right? Is it negotiation? Is it long-term policy? Hard to tell.
Exactly. That unpredictability itself is a challenge for businesses trying to plan, for investors trying to gauge risk.
So the market did rally a bit on the news of the pause.
It did, which probably had a lot of people checking their 401ks.
Huh. Yeah, probably. And Hamrick gave some advice for investors in that situation.
Pretty standard, solid advice, really. For long-term investors, don't panic sell during dips. It's notoriously hard to time the market, getting out and getting back in, right?
Stay the course.
Basically. If you're near retirement, maybe double check your asset mix. Make sure it fits your timeline and risk tolerance. Younger folks, generally, write it out. Time is on your side.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Key takeaways for listeners.
Well, first, tariffs are definitely adding costs and complexity to building a home. That likely means higher prices for new houses and maybe more immediately felt for things like appliances.
Right. Even if the initial house price doesn't seem directly hit for some buyers, the total cost of setting up and owning that home goes up.
Exactly. And second, the bigger trade picture is still, well, it's murky. Tensions, especially with China, persist. Significant tariffs remain. Potential for more exists.
Which carries ongoing risks for the economy as a whole. Consumer prices, growth, all that.
Yeah. So this stuff matters, whether you're buying a house tomorrow or just trying to understand why things cost what they do. It's all connected.
Okay, so here's something to maybe chew on after listening. With all this uncertainty in global trade and how it clearly hits home, what kind of strategies might people or even businesses need to think about, to navigate future bumps related to tariffs and shaky supply chains?
That's a really good question to ponder. What does resilience look like in this environment?
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.